Hocus Pocus by Pegasus Rescue Brigade. Chapter 3. A few days of the last rays of sunlight glimmered on the smooth stone floor of the antechamber as three fillies stepped inside the castle. Before them, two great, intricately carved doors guarded the entrance to the main hall. Dinky pushed on the door with her front hooves, which proved to be a rather fruitless endeavor. Each door, she realized, probably weighed hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. Clarity laughed. "Ha ha ha! Still getting used to this, huh?" She asked a slightly abashed Dinky. "Don't worry. One of these days you'll get the hang of automatically using magic, rather than your front hose for most things." Gray Filly lit her horn and pushed the huge doors open, and then all three fillies were stunned into silence, taken aback by the room beyond. The main hall was larger than Dicky had even thought possible, and hundreds of colts and fillies were seated within, filling the room with a cacophony of chatter. Huge stained glass windows, not unlike the ones lining the vault of the Elements of Harmony in Canterlot Castle, split the evening light into prismatic display that decorated the hall. Unlike Canterlot's windows, which depicted crowning moments of equestrian history, these windows displayed images of a few dozen of the unicorns that were most influential in developing the field of magic. Numerals, carved with beautiful calligraphy into the glass, depicted the dates which each had lived. Together, the unicorns dated from the earliest recorded days of equestrian era right up to the modern era. Dicky didn't recognize the vast majority of the figures in the windows, but she supposed that was to be expected. After all, Twilight hadn't had time to teach her anything about history. They barely got through practical material in their limited training period. However, there was one figure near the beginning of the chronology that Twilight, even with her immensely limited time, had not been able to overlook. The figure with the long white beard, starry cape, and hat was unmistakably Twilight's favorite magical figure of all time, Star-Swirled and Bearded. The sides of the massive hall were lined with pillars standing between the windows. Each one held a strange glowing orb. The light they gave off was oddly similar to the light cast by Ponyville's, admittedly somewhat rare, electric light fixtures, but they weren't connected to any power source, so it seemed safe to assume that they were too simply powered by magic. The vaulted ceiling was far, far above, supported by dozens of stone buttresses that climbed up the walls. The surface was painted with somewhat abstract images of unicorns in various parts of Equestria. At the far end of the room was a polished wooden stage, with a huge banner bearing the royal seal hanging on the wall behind it. Before it were rows and rows of seats, many of which were occupied by students. Clarity gave a low whistle. "Everything about this place is impressive, huh?" "Yes, come, let's go find a seat." She and Dicky trotted down the aisle and searched for a few open chairs. Honeydew tagged silently behind. However, the fillies quickly realized their dawdling since leaving the train hadn't left much room to sit. Colts and fillies sat in groups, leaving only the occasional single chairs left open between them. The prospect of finding three open seats situated together seemed nearly impossible. Finally, they happened upon a pair of unoccupied chairs near the front of the room. It seemed that there wasn't any remaining seating that offered more than that. The trio all exchanged glances, and Honeydew was the first to speak. "It's fine. You two can sit together," she said. "I know you two can help me figure out what to do until we all get situated. But I'm sure there are lots of first-term students who don't know what they're doing yet. I'll, just ask an adult if I'm not sure where to go." Honeydew's voice cracked a bit, betraying her anxiety despite her intent to sound casual. "Are you sure?" Dinky asked, sharing a concerned glance with Clarity. "We don't want to ignore you if you'd like to stay with us for a while." "It's fine," Honeydew said a little too loudly, looking around the hall as if searching for any additional excuse to disappear. "I mean, really, I'll be fine. You two can sit here. Maybe I'll see you later or something." Clarity thought for a moment, then she brightened. "Hey, maybe after the ceremony we can—" "She's already gone," Dicky pointed out. "She kind of left pretty quickly after she said goodbye." Clarity frowned. "I guess she's still not quite ready to make some friends," she admitted. I'm surprised she was willing to stay with us that long. For a moment there, it seemed like she wanted our company, but I think her nerves got the better of her. Can't really blame her, Dicky mentioned. I'd be a bit of a wreck too if I'd been through what she has. I mean, her parents tried to cut off her horn. Is that even legal? No, it's not, Curdy deadpanned. But her whole community consisted of magic flippant earth ponies. I don't think there was any pony who would have seen it as enough of a crime to report it, even if they had gone through with it. Dicky carefully tucked her treasured magic guide beneath her seat as she and Clarity sat down and continued to gaze around the massive, imposing hall. The remaining light coming from outside was fading rapidly, and, interestingly, thought Dinky, the magic aura seemed to be compensating for it, glowing brighter to replace the lost sunlight. Do you know a lot of the ponies in the stained glass windows? She asked suddenly. I'm not sure how famous most of them are. The only one I recognize is Starswilly Bearded. Well, sure, Curdy said, glancing quickly around at the dozens of colorful figures. Every pony up there has made some major contribution to our understanding of magic. Like, there's Meadowlark. I can't wait to use more of her items. For example, Starswirl's contemporary, Clover the Clever, is up there in the next window over. Clover aided in the founding of Equestria, and she also made huge strides in discovering how intricately emotion ties into latent magical power. That's cool, Dicky said. If you have magical theory class, maybe we'll learn about all these ponies. Oh, I'm sure we will, Clarity agreed, and many more besides. A trumpet blared nearby, causing the fillies to jump. While they were talking, a greatest unicorn appeared on the stage. Once he saw his instrument had captured every pony's attention, he smiled and waved at the colts of fillies. Good evening, students. Let me be the first to welcome you to Celestia's Academy for Gifted Unicorns. As always, we shall begin our opening ceremony with an appearance from our dean, the Honorable Miss Brightspark. A door opened on the front corner of the room, and a yellow unicorn with a long, well-groomed silver mane walked slowly into the hall. Her slightly lined face, a pair of thick spectacles, betrayed her advanced age, whence came as no surprise considering he had been dean when Twilight attended the academy over a decade ago. The mayor's cutie mark was an oil lantern. The hall fell silent as Brightspark slowly climbed the stage steps and strolled over to stand next to the green unicorn. She scanned the hall for a few moments before speaking. Thank you, Professor, she said politely, and welcome, all of you, to Celestia's Academy for Gifted Unicorns. As you're all already aware, my name is Brightspark, and I am the acting dean here. I have been running the school as a servant for our beloved Princess Celestia for quite some time. In fact, this is my 40th year. The impressive number evoked a murmur of admiration from the crowd. Brightspark smiled calmly as he waited for the room to quiet again. Now, I suppose I will begin with the usual welcoming speech for our many new students, she continued. To those of you who are joining us in this hall for the first time this evening, I hope your experience has far been an enjoyable one. We do pride ourselves in making the academy and its grounds a pleasant and beautiful place. After all, feelings of contentment usually lead to a clearer, more focused mind, and that in turn leads to a greater magical ability. The old mayor sounded as she knew this speech like the back of her hoof. Dicky assumed she had been giving a variation of the same presentation every year. Brightspark adjusted her glasses and looked down at the first-term students, most of whom were seated together near the front of the room. Now, while we do hope to make your time here comfortable and enjoyable, we mustn't forget that we are all gathered here to study and improve our abilities, she continued, ignoring the older students in the back of the room, who had begun to chatter quietly after growing bored with the speech they had all heard several times in the past. Throughout history, all the greatest unicorns known to mankind have had their humble beginnings here at this very academy. Almost every one of the famous figures you see pictured in our lovely windows is a graduate of this school. Right now, most of you are probably exemplary in casting basic, practical spells,
a plurality of you know some unique artisanal tricks that you picked up by accident, or learned from a sibling or parent. Our greatest goal here is at Celestia's Academy is to augment those bright, young minds of yours with the resources necessary to go out there and use your great magical skills to bring something new and wonderful for everybody in Equestria.
The dean again waited as the new students exchanged excited whispers and glances. A few moments later, she spoke once more.
Those of you who truly want to be able to accomplish these things, however, will first need to be fully versed in the ways of modern magic. For 5 years, each of you will have to study hard and practice often in order to hone the magical abilities already buried within you. It can be very tiring, but you will graduate here as masters of the magical arts. And there'll be a few limits to where you can go and what you can do after that.
Bright Spark smiled knowingly as he observed the nervous looks on the students' faces.
Of course, we can't even expect you to work all the time.
She admitted with a chuckle.
We've only just arrived after all, and tonight is the night for all of you to enjoy yourselves. So, to say a few final words and kick off our opening ceremonies, please welcome our very own benevolent ruler and owner of the Academy, Princess Celestia!
As soon as the words left the dean's mouth, a flicker of yellow light, only a few inches across, appeared above the center of the stage. For a moment, it floated there, glimmering silently as it attracted the attention of all the students in the large hall. It began to grow, gradually at first, then accelerating until it was as a bright spear, more than twice the size of the average pony. Bright Spark sidestepped out of the way as the large, pulsing spear of light began to ascend to the stage, and touched down lightly on the polished wood before beginning to fade, exposing the outline of a tall, slim pony with a long, flowing mane. The audience broke into applause as the light vanished completely, revealing the beautiful form of Celestia.
Thank you for the introduction, Professor Spark,
Celestia said as the dean leaned to a respectful bow.
And welcome, fillies and gentle colts, to another term here at the Academy. Firstly, I would like to apologize for Princess Luna's absence. As you can see, Day is fighting in tonight as we speak. So, my sister is attending to her most important royal duties, and, to her great disappointment, was unable to attend the ceremony this evening.
Celestia motioned to the windows, where, sure enough, stars were beginning to twinkle into view in the darkened sky, and the moon was poking its pallid face over the horizon.
Now,
Celestia continued, I won't speak at length, because I know you've all had a long day riding the train, and I'm sure most of you are famished. I'd just like to say a few words before we serve our welcoming dinner. She smiled warmly at her audience, which seemed to put every pony at ease, making the room quieter than it had ever been during Bright Spark's speech.
I just want to say, you have no idea how happy it is to make me see so many young minds here, willing to go the extra mile to fulfill their potential. Ponies like you are my greatest hope for Equestria's future, and believe me, if I could spend all day here with the students, I would. Unfortunately, that's impossible, so I deeply thank Professor Spark for her many years of dedicated service to the school.
Bright Spark nodded in appreciation.
I am here on occasion now,
Celestia continued.
Luna and I both teach a few classes now and then, so if any pony should feel the need to leave a message for either of us, it can be led to the dean's office for us to pick up. And, in a case of emergency, it can be sent directly to us via the Academy's mail service. Although in most cases, one of the professors or the dean should be able to handle that problem.
Celestia paused and tapped her chin thoughtfully.
I believe that's all, really, she said finally. I sincerely wish each and every one of you a truly fulfilling year of magical study.
The princess grinned and winked to the students.
And, in the more immediate future, a satisfying dinner. Our dining hall is located to the next room over. You'll find the tables have already been set with a welcoming feast.
There were a few articulations of delight among the crowd at the news.
And now, my little ponies, I must leave you for the night. Professor Spark will handle the rest of our opening proceedings. Good night, and good luck to all of you.
And with that, Celestia spread her wings wide and rose into the air, before vanishing in another grand flash of golden light. After a brief walk to the dining hall,
the students spent an hour or so indulging in a seemingly endless supply of delicacies. Dinky tried several dishes she'd never heard of, and often with names she couldn't hope to pronounce, and was pleased to find that almost everything was delicious. Clarity, whose hometown was even more remote than Ponyville, seemed even more thrilled with his election. Both fillies were stuffed by the time the meal was over, but that didn't stop either of them from sampling the desserts that followed. "Wow, I couldn't eat another bite," Clarity declared, leaning back in her chair and patting her stomach. "I hope they don't serve meals like that every day, or I'm going to get too fat to move." Dicky laughed. "Maybe you can learn a spell to shrink your food in your stomach after you eat it, so you can eat more," she joked. Clarity's eyes widened. "I am so going to have to learn to do that sometime this year," she replied, giggling. Dicky was about to respond, but the filly's laughter was cut short by a flash and loud bang. They turned to the center of the room, where Bright Spark had set off a small magical firework to capture the student's attention. "Mother, is that you?"
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the feast, she called. Now, it's beginning to get late, and it's time for all of you to return to your dorm rooms, or, in the case of our new students, get acquainted with them. So before I send you off to the residence towers, I suppose it's time to introduce this year's students overseers.
Bright Spark watched, and so the younger students exchanged confused looks.
For those of you who do not know, she continued, student overseers are fifth-term students who have shown remarkable social leadership skills throughout their previous terms here at the Academy. Overseers are here to help you with any problem where a professor is not available. They address behavioral issues that may occur within the residence towers, as well as help younger students find their way in Academy or deal with minor concerns not related to actual classes. Student overseers have the ability to deal with minor punishments for misconduct or report students to me for larger infractions.
She stared at the one table where many of the older students were seated.
As always, we have one cult and one filly who have been chosen as overseers, and will be responsible for managing their respective towers. She ranted proudly. Our male overseer this time is Presto, and our female overseer is Sparkler. Please come up here and stand with me, you two.
"Sparkler?" Dicky asked Clarity curiously. "Is that the same filly who scared out those bullies on the train?"
Looks like it,
Clarity said, pointing to the pink and purple filly, who was now making her way towards the dean, along with a white unicorn with a nearly black mane and tail, and a magic wand cutie mark. It was apparently Presto. "So that's why Frostfire twins and their little brother weren't willing to mess with her. She has the authority to punish them." Sparkler and Presto joined the dean on stage. Presto smiled broadly and gave a small wave to some of his friends in the crowd. Sparkler, in contrast, maintained a level stare. "Remember these ponies well," Bright Spark said. "Chances are they'll be the first ponies available to help you in most situations, as well as the ones most likely to catch you if you're acting out of line. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sparkler now, who will direct you to the residence house for the evening." Bright Spark stepped aside, and Sparkler moved forward to address the student body. "First things first, every pony," Sparkler called in an authoritative tone. "It's getting late, and I think most of you would probably like to get out of this noisy hall and off to the quiet, warm residence towers for the night. Fillies, gather at the front of the room, and I'll lead you to the fillies' residence, where I'll then lay down the rest of the rules. Colts, please gather at the back of the room and follow Presto to your tower, where you'll receive the same information." Sparkler marched to the front door corridor, and Presto teleported to the back of the room to gather the colts. There was a great commotion as hundreds of students rose from their chairs. Dicky made sure to grab her beginner's magic guide and followed Clarity to the door when Sparkler waited. The overseer pushed open the door and let the herd of fillies into the hallway. The corridor ahead was lit by magic orbs, casting a bright, somewhat artificial light down the hall. Sparkler trotted quickly and briskly forward, and Dicky and Clarity did their best to stay near the front of the group of unicorns. At the end of the hall, Sparkler opened another door and led the students to a wide courtyard outside the castle, enclosed by a low hedge, where she stopped and turned to face them. "For those of you who are new, you may be interested to know that the residence towers are outside the main castle. Sparkler announced in a loud but even tone. With a wave of her hoof, she indicated a large building built into the mountainside, with two separate steep stone ramps leading to each side. It is the largest building on the Academy campus, save for the castle itself. You cannot miss it. Dicky only had to glance at the various buildings surrounding the castle to confirm what Sparkler had said. Unlike most of the structures built around the castle's perimeter, most are small, single-story buildings. This one was easily as big as some of the grander feats of architecture found in Canterlot. A low, long, rectangular section, perhaps 2 stories high, sat in between the two impressive white towers. The residence tower is simple, Sparkler said. The left tower is for the colts, the right one's for the fillies. There is a spell over each to prevent ponies of the opposite sex from entering, so don't bother trying. This goes for you too, Cloud Kicker.
Oh. What about the middle?
A filly standing next to Sparkler said. The middle section of the building connects to 2 towers. Sparkler answered, sounding uninterested. It's the student lounge, and there's no enchantment on it. So, if you like to hang out with the colts, do it there. Sparkler looked over the heads, where presto and the colts were emerging from another door. She nodded to her fellow overseer, and the two of them simultaneously began to lead the students up the 2 separate narrow paths that approached the resident complex. As you can see, the residence complex is up on a plateau on the mountainside, Sparkler called as he continued to walk. The only way to safely travel to and from the building is by way of these paths, and because of the courtyards are the base that are enclosed, you actually have to re-enter the castle and exit via a different door to reach the rest of the grounds.
That seems unnecessarily complex. Is there a reason?
Of course, Sparkler answered without turning around. The school rules forbid wandering the grounds after dark. It is very common, however, for students to have evening classes, or perhaps need to stay up in the wee hours of the morning in the castle library. Both the castle and the residence buildings are open all day and night, so isolating the residence towers was necessary to prevent students wandering off onto the resident campus as they traveled between castle and tower.
That's clever,
Clarity admitted, as Dinky nodded in approval. After a few minutes, Sparkler reached the top of the stone path. It pushed open the wooden door to the filly's residence tower. The 2 fillies followed inside and were faced with a simple, large, round room. Since this is the 2 towers, I fully expect a wizard named Gandalf to show up.
Oh, you miserable no-good son of a...
The only other furniture in the room was a few overstuffed chairs and a long lone table. Sparkler's horn flared brightly, and several more of the light orbs that seemed to be a common feature of the academy flickered on, flooding the room with light. There were 2 doors leading out of the room besides the one from which the fillies had entered, as well as a staircase leading to the higher levels of the tower. Next to the stairs was a mountain of irregularly shaped objects, which Dicky quickly identified as luggage that had been stored on the train that morning. Sparkler marched to the center of the room and stood still for a few moments, as he waited for the mass of fillies stood behind her to squeeze inside the chamber.
Dicky,
Clarity whispered, as dozens of the other ponies settled around them. You want to stay in the study dorm room once we go upstairs, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
Good, because here's what I want to do. Clarity continued in a hushed tone, swishing her tail excitedly. My sister told me her old room was really great. She told me how to find it. So I want to claim that one for us, since no pony's living in it anymore.
Okay,
Dicky said, nodding at the suggestion.
But how do we make sure we get that room before somebody else does?
We have to work our way over, towards the steps, while Sparkler's talking. As soon as he's done, you and I are going to bolt up there as fast as we can. Dicky laughed and stepped out of the way to allow her friend to lead the charge. The last group of fillies trickled into the room as Sparkler began to speak. This is the fillies' tower. The room we're in now is just the entrance. It can also serve as a quiet study area if things get too noisy in the student lounge. None of the rambunctious cults can get in here, so this area is pretty peaceful. Sparkler pointed to the door at the back of the circular room. Through there is the overseer suite, she explained. I'll usually be in there when I'm not in the castle, so if you need my help with something, it tends to be the first place you look. Additionally, there are a few other fifth-term students who are acting as student aides. They can't give out privileges or discipline like overseers can, but they might be able to help if you have a small quest they're concerned. They'll just be housed on the levels above us, mixed in with the rest of the student dorms. The older Philly turned and indicated the other door with a gentle nod. Through there is the lounge. Like I said, it's open all day and night, but typically it's the busiest in the evening, just after classes have ended. Any questions about that? No pony raised a hoof. Good, Sparkler said curtly. Now, I know this should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. We are all going to be living in this tower for the better part of next year. I hope I can count on all of you to be respectful and courteous to one another. I've had a no-nonsense lifestyle since I was a foal, and I'm not going to tolerate misbehavior from you fillies either. A few of the younger fillies shied away a bit at Sparkler's stern gaze. Most of the older ones, however, simply waited with bored expressions for the overseer to dismiss them. Found you look into that pile? Clarity asked under her breath. Dicky nodded. Good. Then get ready to run, Clarity whispered, bending her knees to get into a good position, to spring forward at maximum. 3, 2, 1! Now that that's out of the way, Sparkler continued, her dry, businesslike tone finally dissolving into a more cordial one. You're free to take your lunches and proceed upstairs in an orderly go! You know, I just thought about it, but Sparkler is a designer, is the organizer in Ponyville before Twilight showed up. Well, now I see what Sparkler was doing with her life earlier. With a flash of magic, Clarity yanked her luggage from the pile and galloped for the stairs. Dicky followed closely behind. The commotion spurred the older fillies into action. Within seconds, dozens of other ponies were joining in the stampede. Wait! Stop! Sparkler yelled fretlessly, already realizing she was far too late to stop the frantic charge of excited fillies. Somebody's going to get hurt! Calm down it! A large suitcase caught some pony's magical grip, flew through the air, and Sparkler only barely managed to duck under it as it hurled by. Without wasting another second, she formed a shielding spell around herself. Whistling against the bags and boxes thudded against the magical wall as the veritable blizzard of luggage raged around her. She could only watch as the rest of the village charged heedlessly up the staircase. Grumbling to herself, she lowered her shield and followed the chaotic mess up into the tower. Dicky puffed and panted as she followed Clarity up another flight of stairs. How high up is your sister's old room? She gasped. 6th floor, Clarity called back. Hurry! Some of the other fillies are catching up! With a seamlessly limitless energy, Clarity turned sharply around another corner and charged up the stairwell to the 6th story. She paused for just a moment as Dinky, and several floating suitcases surrounded by the fillies' oars, caught up, and then tore off down a long hallway as quickly as she could without slipping on the silky purple carpet. The two fillies reached the room at the end of the corridor and tried it inside. This is it, Dinky, she called. Come on in! Dinky stepped into the room Clarity had led them to. The room was almost perfectly circular and fairly large. There were 3 beds, a pair of bunk beds stacked on one side of the room, and a wider, single bed on the other. A pillar near the door held one of the light orbs. Dicky had already become accustomed to seeing around the castle. Opposite the door was a wide window, with a long padded bench covering it, carrying the wall for about a third of the room's total circumference. A few tall narrow doors on one side part of the circle concealed the bathroom and a small storage closet. Dicky tried to the window and realized that the view was probably one of the perks of this particular room's position. It faced roughly northward, which caused it to overlook the forest set in the corner of the campus. One part of the castle was also visible off to the right, as was the drop-off that separated the school from the portion of Equestria beyond the mountain. The moon, now high in the sky, cast its beams through the window and onto their floor. Dicky sat down on the bench beneath the window, realizing it would probably make for a great place to study during the coming term. I called Tubbug! Clarity called as he scrambled up the ladder. You want the bottom buggy? Or would you rather have the spare bed? Doesn't matter, Dicky said, shrugging. I guess I'll take the bottom bunk. That way we don't have to call across the room to each other. Clarity grinned and jumped down from her bed, landing with a thump. That works, she chirped. We still have that big spare bed, so I guess we can use that to sit on if we want to study together or something. Dicky laughed. You're really excited we got this room, aren't you? Well, just look at it. My sister said it's a little bigger than most of the other rooms in the tower, and that the view is awesome. I've been wondering all day whether I'd be able to stay in this room or not, so of course I'm excited. A little too excited, if you ask me. Dicky and Clarity turned to the entrance to find Sparkler standing just inside the room.
Bop, 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 bop!
Tapping on hoof impatiently and staring sternly at the fillies. For the first time, it occurred to Dinky and Clarity that they'd probably broken some rules by bolting upstairs and causing a bit of chaos in the process. Oh, hi, Miss Overseer, ma'am, called Clarity awkwardly. How's your evening? It was going pretty well, until two fillies decided to make a run for it, and ended up causing the whole building to turn into a war zone of dancing ponies and flying luggets, Sparkler said levelly. Everything's been calmed down now, of course. As far as I can tell, no pony was hurt. Still, would have been nice to avoid that incident entirely. Sparkle waited for a response, but the two younger fillies just visited nervously and failed to meet her gaze. Well, she asked more forcefully, I'd like an explanation for your actions, girls, unless you'd like me to report you to the Dean for misconduct before the term even starts. It's my fault, Clarity admitted. My sister graduated last year, so I knew this room was open, and she told me about how nice it was. I wanted to make sure we were the ones to claim it. Your sister, Sparkler said thoughtfully. She glanced at Clarity for a few moments, and blinked in surprise as she made a mental connection. Are you Lucid's younger sister? She asked finally. Clarity nodded. Yeah, Lucid taught me most of the magic I know. That doesn't surprise me, Sparkler said pensively. Lucid was a brilliant student. She always followed the rules, if I'm not mistaken. Clarity smiled sheepishly. Sparkler turned to Dinky. And I'm guessing you were just following your friend's lead, she asked. Yeah, Dinky admitted. Sorry, guess neither of us were thinking about the trouble we might cause. Sparkler nodded. Well, no harm done, I suppose, she said slowly. We've only known each other for a few minutes, so nice you apologize. I'll let you girls off with a warning. Both of the younger fillies breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Miss Overseer. You can just call me Sparkler, by the way, Sparkler responded. I may be an overseer, but I am a student here, too. For the first time, the overseer gave them just a tedious hint of a smile. Stay out of trouble, you two, she said as he trotted from the room. Clarity waited until the sound of footsteps vanished, then sighed as he fell down on the carpet. I guess that wasn't my best idea, she said with an ironic chuckle. Well, it wasn't all that bad, Dinky pointed out. We got to keep the room you wanted, and we didn't really get into trouble. We should probably just try our best to follow the rules from now on. Clarity nodded as he stared up the ceiling. Was it I had to tell Sparkler about my sister, though? She sighed. Dinky stepped closer and stared down at the pony on the floor. So your sister's name is Lucid? She asked. Yep, Clarity replied. Lucid's kind of had a reputation while she was here. Straight A student, and kind of a teacher's pet. She was always winning at academic rewards and tutoring her classmates. Graduated top of her class. Wow, said Dicky, slightly taking it back. You said she was smart, but I didn't realize she was that smart. Yeah, well, I was reluctant to talk about the details while we were on the train, Clarity explained, sounding a bit petulant. If ponies find out I'm related to Lucid, one of the most successful ponies in the Academy's recent history, their expectations for me are going to be pretty high. I want to attend the Academy as Clarity, not Lucid's little sister. But she was such a success, it could be hard for me to get out of her shadow. Clarity picked herself off the floor. But no sense worrying about it, she declared, returning to her usual upbeat demeanor. Lucid is gone, and now it's Clarity's turn to have a go at the Academy. So far, you and Sparkler are the only ones who know, so maybe you'll stay sort of a secret. Dinky admired Clarity's optimism. See, the green filly was already ready to face the challenge. Some pony knocked on the door frame, interrupting the filly's conversation. Dinky went to the door and was surprised to see Sparkler had returned. Hey again, girls, Sparkler said. You two have a spare bed in here, right? Yeah? Why? Most of the rooms got filled up pretty quickly in the commotion you two caused. One filly wound up without a room to stay in.
and I'm pretty sure this is the last spare bed in the building. So I'm assigning her here. The overseer beckoned to the sub-pony in the hallway. A pair of pale green eyes peered cautiously around the corner for a moment, before the pink filly they belonged to stepped into the room. Honeydew! Dicky and Clarity cried. Oh, it's you two, smiled Honeydew, sounding simultaneously relieved and concerned. You've already met, huh? Sparkler asked. I'll leave you girls to get settled in then. Good night. Sparkler left without another word, leaving the three fillies standing together in silence. So, which bed is still open? Asked Honeydew finally. The big one, over there, Dicky replied. The big filly nodded and began to unpack her things and carry them to the closet. The room fell into an awkward silence. Not sure what to say to their antisocial companion, Dicky began to do the same. But as usual, Clarity was not so easily put off by Honeydew's attitude. She sidled discreetly across the room until she was standing at the pink filly's side. So, how was your dinner, Honeydew? It was fine, Honeydew said quietly, not looking away from her suitcase. I've never seen Princess Celestia before. She's very beautiful. She is, Clarity agreed. Wonder what classes she teaches. Probably one of the most advanced ones. I imagine so, Honeydew replied duly, avoiding eye contact with Clarity as he continued to unpack. The quiet swept over the room again, as Clarity tried to think of a topic that the side pony would actually address. To her surprise, it was Honeydew who broke the silence. So, during dinner, I was thinking about what you two said earlier, she mumbled, finally turned to face Dicky and Clarity. About how I need to choose the way of life I want to live? She trailed off. For a moment she seemed to wrestle with herself eternally, but eventually she forced herself to meet her roommate's gaze as it continued. You two are right. I am a unicorn. I do like magic, and I truly want to study at this academy. But this city, this castle, and everything about unicorn life, it's just so different than what I'm used to. I want to fit in, but I don't know where to start. Honeydew sank down to her haunches and stared at the floor. Dicky trotted over to the dejected filly and placed a foreleg over her shoulder. Honeydew, come on. All three of us are new this year, and we all have challenges to overcome. You may not know much about unicorns, but you know more about magic and how it applies to daily life than I do. Honeydew blinked. What is that? My dad was the only unicorn in my family, and he passed away years ago, Dicky explained. I was raised by a Pegasus, and never even learned to use magic until just a few months ago. Oh, Honeydew replied. Well, I guess I did have a lot more training than you. And I don't exactly have it easy either, Clarity piped up. I need to try to break free of the standards set by my sister. It's going to be tough, but I'm not going to give up. And when I need someone to turn to help, I'll have Dicky here. Exactly, Dicky added. The point is, we're all going to have to face obstacles, but they seem a little more manageable when a friend is there to help. Honeydew finally seemed to get what the others were implying. She looked up, a small, hopeful smile creeping over her muzzle. So, since we'll be seeing a lot of each other anyway, she said slowly, maybe we could be friends? Finally, Clarity laughed, scooping up the surprised Honeydew into a welcoming hug. I've been trying to get you to ask that all day. So, that's a yes? Honeydew asked tentatively. That left Clarity a bit of loss for words. Dicky piped up instead. Yes, Honeydew, that's a yes. Clarity and Dicky laughed. Honeydew finally chuckled a bit as well. Well, now that it's so, we should probably go to bed, Dicky pointed out. We don't want to be late for our first class tomorrow morning. Way ahead of you, Clarity retorted, already climbing the ladder to her raised bed. Turn on the light, would you, Dicky? Dicky glanced at the pillar holding the light orb. There was no visible switch. How? Illumination spell in reverse, Clarity called as she flipped her pillow. Establish a connection with the orb and draw the energy out of it. Illumination spells were one thing Dicky did know how to do, and very well for that matter. She drew the light from the orb, and jumped a bit at the sudden rush of energy that flowed into her body. It only took a few seconds for her to adjust, though, as the energy was stored away in the magic reserve somewhere in her bed. Nothing but moonlight lit the room. Dicky yawned and tried to the bottom of the bunk. Good night, girls, she yawned. Night, Dicky. Night, Honeydew. Night.
Dicky pulled the sheets over herself, and within moments, the weight of the day's events washed over her as she fell into her deep sleep. Hidden among the trees, in the shadow of the castle, a shape stirred. Two beady blue eyes peered up at the residence towers, unblinking. As the minutes passed, the last few lights dimmed and went out, leaving all the windows dark. With a sudden, jarring moment, the strange silhouette darted to the cover of another bush, and then into the shadow of a drooping tree. I continued to leap and dash erratically until I reached the darkness of the Academy's thick forest, there where the moonlight did not reach. The creature writhed and wrapped itself around the trunk of a tree, moving up the bark in a strange motion that was half scurry, half slither. It gathered itself onto a branch of a branch, its beady eyes flicking back and forth. "The new students have arrived today. Yes, they have," it said, speaking in a strange voice that was as much a gurgle as it was a hiss. "Every year the new colts and fillies come, but none of them are either the right one. No, they're not." The creature paused to sniff the air and continued to mutter to itself. "Something seems different this year, though. Oh, yes, it does. I'll have to keep a particularly close eye on this year. Yes, I will, in case something comes along." The amorphous shape shuddered and emitted a strangled sound as it attempted laughter. Then, with another abrupt series of movements, made its way down to the tree and disappeared in the dark of the forest.